My first question, Mr. Bolton, again, thanks for being here today. I want to start, excuse me, by thanking you and your team for the hard work you put into these reports. We have now had numerous hearings and meetings to speak about these reports, and your office has always been responsive to our questions and concerns. I want to ask you a few quick questions because we only have 5 minutes. So short answers, or I'm going to ask to reclaim my time. In your testimony, you explained that you asked over 80 officers to speak with your office about January 6th, but only about 36 of them have actually completed an interview. Now, these officers weren't obligated to speak with you, but would you consider that to be a normal response rate for an investigation?
For police officers, I would say that's about a normal rate. They're under no obligation because they weren't a subject of an investigation. We were just soliciting their information. Some just may not have had the time to be able to speak with us, or for whatever reason, but they weren't compelled to talk to us.
Okay, well, fewer than 50% of officers responding raises concerns that the department has a broader cultural issue of reluctance to speak up. Are officers concerned that speaking with your office might lead to retaliation?
They shouldn't whatsoever. We always make sure that they understand that they would be protected, and basically, and especially in this type of a review, we don't utilize their names in our report. It's just as an officer, and we don't even identify whether it be Senate Division, House Division, or wherever.
Okay, well, thank you, sir, and thanks again for your work and the work of your entire team there at the IG's office. Mr. Schuman, thanks for joining us here today, especially on such short notice. As you're aware, we're here to discuss the oversight of the Capitol Police. We also know that the Inspector General's role is limited to only Capitol Police. As he mentioned repeatedly during our hearings last year, he does not have oversight authority of the Capitol Police Board. The Capitol Police Board, as you mentioned and as we mentioned, is made up of 3 political appointees, and the chief of police is an ex officio member. The board holds an unusual amount of responsibility for campus security decisions. Can you help us to understand why this structure hinders transparency? Go a little bit beyond your opening comments.
Well, sure. So there are a number of factors, some of which are already in the record. One, of course, is people have a lot of confusion about who's actually making the decision. Is it the board? Is it the chief? Sometimes the chief is in the board meetings as an ex officio member. There is not the release of the minutes of the proceedings before the board. The GAO has indicated that folks who've served on the Capitol Police Board and the Capitol Police Chief are confused about who they report to, who their overseers are, and that the staff for the relevant committees of jurisdiction didn't feel like they were being kept in the loop with respect to decisions being made by the Capitol Police Board. The architect of the Capitol, in his testimony, I think back in May, said that there needs to be more transparency and accountability in the board, that things are overclassified, that they're not made available, and conversations can't happen with other folks, including staff and elsewhere, that there's a lack of dedicated staff. GAO has faulted the board for who has access to the board's manual procedures, that it wasn't routinely being provided to members of the committees of jurisdiction. And ultimately, the Capitol Police and the Capitol Police Board are not taking Congress's direction. Congress has said to the IG, or requested of the IG, that the report should be made publicly available, and told the Capitol Police to create a FOIA-like process. There have been other directives regarding arrest information, and the Capitol Police has not implemented those recommendations. All of this suggests that the Capitol Police is not able to listen in the way that it needs to the directions coming from Congress. There are also other structural problems in the way that not all members of the Capitol Police Board adequately report to all members of Congress. We saw that what I referenced before with respect to the Sergeant at Arms of the Senate being unwilling to testify in person before the House. I could go on, but I don't want to take up all your time, so I'm happy to keep talking about this.
Well, thank you. Madam Chair, I ask unanimous consent to insert into the record the 2017 GAO report on the Capitol Police Board.
Without objection.
Mr. Schuman, I know you're familiar with this report, and just do you consider the Capitol Police Board to be accountable and transparent? I think we know your answer.
No, not only are they not accountable and transparent, I think they are the least accountable and transparent body that I've ever run across in the federal government. I've worked a lot with the national intelligence agencies, so that says a lot.
Well, I appreciate your comments today. I know that I'm running out of time, so Madam Chair, I'm going to end by asking unanimous consent to insert into the record a Washington Monthly article written by Mr. Schuman and Amelia Strauss from January 9th, 2021, titled A Primer on the Capitol Police, What We Know from 2 Years of Research.
Without objection, that will be entered into the record.
Thank
And
you. I yield back, and thanks to the witnesses.
Gentleman yields back. Mr.